Okay, today we'll talk about creating a data set, right? And
Uh-huh.
during that context, so we already know what is a data set, and we have also discussed a few aspects of the data set. So we have spoken about data set pipeline, we have looked at some of the data set stages. Obviously, there are more, and we'll talk about those data sets stages. Now, I can create data set using two different means. So I can create using external data,
Uh-huh.
right? And then I can also create using internal data, right? Which is workday data.
Uh-huh.
For creating using external data, we know that there are two options. Okay, so for creating using external data, we know that there are two options, and we look at both of these options. So one is from file, and one is from SFTP.
TP.
For
Yeah.
creating using workday data, and that is the option we are going to explore today, right? And that
Okay.
is, how do I create a
Custom.
data set using workday data? This has to be done
Custom report.
using custom
Yeah.
report.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so for using a data set, so today we'll talk about creating a data set using workday data, which is using custom report.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now when you create a data set using custom report, basically what Workday does is Workday retains only the fields with field types that data sets currently support. So if you go ahead and create a report or a, a data set using custom report, in your data set, in the final data set created, Workday only retains those fields that are associated with the field types that Workday currently supports, right? Now, what are those field types that Workday supports? We'll go ahead and have a look at them. The second
Uh-huh.
thing is there are some prerequisites. So for Workday report to be used as a data source, they must. So there are a few prerequisites. The first one is the report must be an advanced report.
Uh-huh.
I cannot use any other report type, right? Okay. The
Okay.
second one is a report must be enabled as a web service, right? The third one, the report must be enabled for Prism Analytics. And if you remember, this is something you had asked me. You were
Prism.
practicing yourself. So this
Yeah.
is basically select the enable for Prism checkbox
Mm-hmm.
on advanced tab. Okay, so these are fairly self understanding, right? No
Uh-huh.
logic there.
Yeah.
There's just
Yeah.
one more, and that is your report should not include any fields, right,
From
from a
related business website.
related business
Okay.
object. So your
Okay.
report should not use any fields from the related business object that
Uh-huh.
have a many to one relationship with the primary business object.
Uh,
So for example, if I have my primary business object on the report called worker, let's say,
uh-huh.
and let's say the related business object is address, right? Now a worker can be associated with multiple addresses. So from this related business object, I shouldn't be pulling addresses. If I do that, then that particular report cannot be used in Prism. So addresses, they are part of the related business object and they have many to one relationship with the primary business object, right? So the idea is your report, I cannot include any multi-instance fields from the RP.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
and we'll go ahead and see that. So this is the next. There's one more, and that is if custom report it includes a currency field, right? Then you must select the shows currency column option.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I've done is these are the 5 prerequisites. I have created a few reports, but I have not enabled them yet as the uh, Prism Analytics
Okay.
report.
Okay.
So let's go into the system. I have basically created 3 reports, and then we'll talk about scenario. We'll also include some data from outside, and then we'll see what I'm trying to do. Uh, okay, okay, I'll have to start proxy.
The other question I had, so does it
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
all the implementers will default their tenants will have a defaulted Prism enabled? Just a question.
No,
No, right? Okay.
many organizations they don't have Prism, right? So
Mm.
only if your organization has Prism, and then see you can have multiple implementation tenants. Not all implement,
Mhm.
even if your organization has Prism, right? Not all
Yeah.
implementation tenant will have Prism access. But yes,
Yeah.
if if you have the implementer access and in that tenant
Mhm.
Prism is enabled, then you'll be able to access it. Right? Implementer, they have global access, right? I'm not
Yeah,
so
that's what.
so if the tenant has that, then with implementer you should be able to access it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So your
because
question was in
yeah,
terms of implementer access, is it? And
no,
not
no,
in
no, no.
terms.
My question was in general with respect to yeah, sorry. The question was more on whether by default the implementation preview tenants will be given access for the
Mm,
implementers
r-
like IBM or Deloitte or Accenture or KPMG. You know.
Um, mm, no, again, I don't think
Mhm.
that that's how it would work. Right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. So let's search for my report. So I've
Mhm.
created 3 reports, and uh, we'll go ahead and tally them. Where is reporting? Okay. So the first report that I'm talking about is the worker details. Right now, this report basically has all. I have added a few worker related fields. So in this report, I have the worker name, right? The supervisory org that the worker belongs to,
Mhm.
the supervisory organization's workday ID, the gender of the worker, the age group, and the total base pay for the worker. All right.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay. Let's go back. How to go back? Okay. The second report is, so let's open these reports side by side. So this is my first report. This is my second report, and this is my third report. So we have three workday reports. One is worker details.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is organization assignment details.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is the company assignment details.
Okay.
Okay, now this is what I'm trying to do. So in worker details, I have details of all my workers, right? So I have the worker name, I have the supervisory organization the worker belongs to, the workday ID for that supervisory org, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it SUP org workday ID. What else? Gender, age group, total base pay. Gender, age group, total base pay. Okay. What is there in my organization assignments? If I run this organization assignments report, it gives me uh, the details of all supervisory organizations. So again, the first thing I have is supervisory org, the supervisory organization ID. So let's do one thing. Let's place here. So I'm trying to match the columns that I have, right? I have the
Mm-hmm.
supervisory org ID. What else do I have? I have the level of that organization from the top. So Global Modern Services is my top level organization, right?
Okay.
So I have
Yeah.
org level where in the hierarchy that org belongs to. Okay. What else do I have? I have the subtype for that organization. I have the so this is the subtype for the immediate organization, and this is the subtype for the level 2 organization. So if you see risk management, right? Let me open risk
Mm-hmm.
management. So this is the subtype of risk management supervisory org, which is division. You know what is a subtype, right? Every organization has a subtype assigned to it. So if I
Yeah.
go to
Yeah. Yeah.
every supervisory org, it has a subtype, right?
Okay.
Now this risk
Okay.
management subtype is division, which is what shows here, right? And against risk management, there is another subtype column which shows life sciences, right? So if I open risk
Mm-hmm.
management, it's second level organization structure, which means right at the top I have global modern services, which is my top level hierarchy. Under global modern services, I have executive management group, and under executive management group, my third level hierarchy is finance and administration, information technology, operations, sales and marketing. So these are my third level hierarchy. Make
Okay.
sense?
Mm-hmm.
Let
Yeah.
so if I let me show you.
So,
So we
mm-hmm.
will I'll
we ha-
so what so I'm
we
we
have
have
the
built.
prompt as well. Okay. Mm.
Yes, we have the prompt as well, but don't worry. Uh, okay, so my first level's hierarchy is global modern services, under which I have executive management group, which is what shows here as number two, right? And under
Yeah.
executive management group, I have all of these organizations: finance and administration, global transport. So these are so if you see global transport, finance and administration, and so on and so on, right? Now, what this
Yeah.
subtype it is trying to do is for a given organization, it is trying to check in which business unit that organization belongs to. So these are my business units: global transport, sales and marketing operations, right? So if I, for
Yeah.
example, look at risk management, it is under finance and administration, right? And what is the subtype for finance and administration? It is life sciences. So here it is showing the life sciences as the subtype. Make sense? So from
Yeah.
every other organization from here, no matter where they belong to, I'm basically checking what is the third level organization, right? So for example, if you see here, this is at level number 7, but still it has to belong to some organization at level 3, right? And the level 3 organization
Mhm.
subtype is India. So again, if just to make sure that we understand. Okay, so global financial consulting UK, what is the subtype? It is project, which is what system chose me here, right?
Mm.
But
Okay.
this, if I go up, this is the superior organization above it, Consulting Services UK. Above it, I have Consulting Services EMEA Group, above which I have Consulting Services, above which I have Operations, which is the third level, right? Under Global Modern
Right.
Services,
Mm.
Executive. So what is the
Yeah.
operations subtype? Let's see what is the subtype for operations. Subtype for operations is industry, and that's what I'm getting, right? So my
Mhm.
requirement is to group these employees. When I create my data sets, I want to group these employees based on the sector they belong to. So in my organization, there are basically 5 or 6 sectors. And what are these sectors? I have mobility, energy, IT, life sciences, industry, and others. So these are the 6 sectors in my company. And what I want to do is, for each of these organizations, right? Or each of these organizations, I want to understand their overall employee headcount. I want to understand their female and male ratio. I want to understand their average base pay, their headcount trend. If you see, I want to understand what was their headcount trend, and so on and so forth, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. I also want to understand the total revenue for that company, the operating margins, and a lot of other information. But that information is not currently in Workday, because in Workday we don't have financials. So that information will get from outside Workday. Make sense? So from Workday,
Okay.
I am getting data about the organization details, the sector details, the employee details, and we'll keep adding to these reports, right? So we are getting data
Yeah.
for their total base salary, and then we'll look at their expenses, and then and other information we'll get from outside Workday, and see, uh, create metrics, for example, to understand what is the average base salary in a given sector, right? We'll get information
Mhm.
like what is the total revenue in a sector, what is the total revenue versus salary ratio in that sector, and so on and so forth. Okay,
Okay.
so that is what I'm trying to do. Makes sense? What the
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
reports? Okay, so this
Yeah.
is my second report, uh, which has subtype for business unit, or subtype for the sector, and what else is there? We have headcount current year, previous year minus one. Then,
So how did we get the head count? Is it using calculate
yeah,
sum of
I
all employees
there
in
are
that? Is it okay?
standard fields. Uh,
Oh, okay. Okay.
so
Okay.
I'm saying headcount fiscal year, headcount fiscal year minus one, which is last year, and
Mm-hmm.
headcount fiscal year minus two. Okay.
Okay.
And the third report is company details here. So within these two reports, if you see, this is my mapping values, right? Obviously,
Mm.
when I'm trying to join or union multiple reports, there should be something matching, right? Else it wouldn't be
Right.
possible for me. And the third
Yeah.
report has the name of the company. So it has company name, it has company workday ID. What else is there? It has the sector. Now this is the sector which matches here.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a superior company and superior company ID. That is fine, right? So these are the three fields. In each of the tables, I have something which is matching. So here sector maps with this, right? And here organization ID maps to this organization ID, or organization name also maps to that organization. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create our uh, first data set, which is, all right. So let's, I'm going back to the task data catalog, and I want to create my first data set, right? The data set that I'm creating is from a custom report, right? So
Mm.
this is a
Yeah.
base data set. All right, let me search for these custom reports. So let's first start with this report, control C. You'll see this report is not available. And the reason it is
Mm.
not available is because I've not enabled it for Prism right now. So let's go ahead
Mm-hmm.
and edit this report. Okay, this report is already web service enabled. I uh, enabled it as web service when I created this report, right? The next thing I'll have to do is enable it for Prism. All right, let's see if I can save this report. Okay, right. I am now going to search for this report here, and my report is available, right? So this report doesn't have any filter criteria, right? So if I run
Mm-hmm.
it, it directly gives me details for all the em- employees. So there's no filter criteria on this report, right? And that's why nothing is displayed.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. The next task. So in create dataset retrieval, uh, within the configure report retrieval, we specify any report parameters or the prompt parameters with which we'll run that report. Okay. All
Mm-hmm.
right. If I can go back. Okay. We also have the option to specify restricted to environment. So what happens is, again, the same logic. If I have restricted my report to some environment, whenever that data set is executed, system would
Mm-hmm.
ensure that the environment in which the data set is executed matches the environment that is defaulted. So what I'll do is I'll cancel this and I'll create a new data set. Again, ZF details. So here we have the option to restrict it to environment. So if I restrict this report to any environment, right, what happens when this data set is executed, right, later on as well, system would see that the environment in which that you are running that data set matches what you have specified here, right? If there is a mismatch, then Workday would not run that data set and it will give you an error,
Mhm.
right? Now, why is this
Okay.
required? Why is this? For example, let's say you have created some data set from an external file as an example, right? Now, you don't want that external file to be loaded into your non-production environment by mistake, right? Because it may have production data, it may have a lot of personal data and so on and so forth. So you'll only restrict your report to production environment. That's way in implementation tenant, when someone runs that data set by mistake, try importing a new file or an XFTP file, system would give an error.
Mhm.
It would say that this cannot be executed in an implementation environment and vice versa, right? So you can restrict
Okay.
your report to one or multiple
Right.
environments.
Okay.
Okay. The the next is schedule request type. Now, when you create a data set using a report, what you can do is you can schedule a recurrence, right? And this is what I was saying. So with that recurrence, system would automatically, now if you see, my workers would keep getting added, right? My workers would keep getting terminated, right? So I want this information to be updated. So I can specify a recurrence. With that recurrence, your data set will keep fetching the latest data.
Okay.
All right. But for now, I am not interested in any recurrence. I'll just run it now. Okay.
Okay.
Now I am going to create my data set. So I'm calling it ZF underscore base data set 01, or let's call it 01 base data set worker. Now there are two modes in which data can be or data set can be executed. The first one is a replace mode. Now if you see, this is a custom report. Fine. Okay, now you tell me, when new data gets updated, right? So employees keeps getting added, employees keep getting right? My employees would be hired, they would be terminated, and so on and so forth. So if I want every time this report is executed to add to my existing data set, then I can select the option append. If I want my full data to be replaced with new data, every time I execute this data set, then I can select the option replace. Make
Mhm.
sense? So replace, it will delete entire data in my existing data
It
set
replaces with the
and
latest.
replaces it with latest data. Append, whatever records are there, it will go ahead and append it the next time you go ahead and run that integration.
So it means it might create duplicates, right? If we end up
Exactly,
appending. Okay.
right. So that's why
Hmm.
you have to understand which data set has to be in append mode, this data set has to be in replace mode, right? So
Okay.
maybe had I created this report to only get details to employees hired on that particular day, then probably an append would have
Hmm.
made sense, right? Because I am only picking to this report
Right.
those employees who are hired
Right.
that day, right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, but for that as well, if you have duplicates, you later on you can go ahead and manage those duplicates using a custom report. So you can also automate the duplicate. Okay, but for now, for at least this custom report, we know that a replace option is what makes sense, and
Hmm.
I'll go ahead and so my data set is created, and over here, this is my new data set.
So now that we are scheduling, even the data set also gets refreshed every time, is it?
Yes. So with the schedule that you have defined, your data set would get refreshed,
Hmm.
right? Okay, it gives me all the details that the integration mode is replace. The source is a workday report created by Logan McNeil on this date and last modified obviously on the date. This date. At this point in
Okay.
time, we have not applied any dataset security and the dataset is not published, right? Okay, let's go ahead and see the sample data load. So this is my sample data load that Workday has added. Make sense? Any questions?
Oh, no questions. I'm good.
Okay, so let's go ahead and write that down, what we just saw. So creating a data set, first we know the custom report. These are the parameters for a custom report. And our steps are within data catalog, create from custom report, right? The second thing that we specify is the option to configure report retrieval task. This is where we basically specify or select custom report and define the, what was the other thing that we defined? The restricted to option.
Yeah. Restricted.
Okay, what is the next thing? The next thing is configure
Configure.
schedule request type, which is where
Mhm.
we specify the schedule, whether we want
Yeah.
to run it just now or we want to run it with on an hourly basis, a daily basis, monthly basis, or right. So here we specify the run frequency. Okay, if in this case, if you see, we only specified run now, right? But if you select any other schedule frequency, you'll have to specify the integration schedule. So Workday automatically creates an integration. So this acts like an integration, right? Which is getting data from within Workday. So that
Yeah.
integration automatically triggers, it executes that custom report and it, it fetches the data for that data set. So data set in that case or data catalog as such is a separate environment, right?
Okay.
So we
Yeah.
specify the integration schedule on the create data set retrieval or on the schedule integration task. Okay, but anytime once your data set is created, you can always run a data set on an ad hoc basis. So I can go in here, I can come here and I can run this integration now. I can edit. So I have not scheduled this integration, right? But any point in
Mhm.
time, I can go ahead and edit and schedule that integration, or I can run the
Okay.
integration. Right? So I can come in here. Right? So okay,
Mhm.
and I can schedule my integration. All right. Okay. So after the data set is created, Uh, the integration can be run on an ad hoc basis from data set, additional actions, and then I have the option. So data set, additional actions, run integration. Right? We have the integration options. Okay.
Okay.
What happens? Let's say if uh, I go ahead and change this report, and if I rerun this data set, obviously, if I run it now, it will call the same report, right? And then it will try fetching data. Now, the
Yeah.
schema for this data set has been defined. It includes
Mhm.
worker,
Yeah.
supervisory org, workday ID, gender, age group, and total base pay. And if you see, we have included the currency as well. So this is what my final requirement was, is
Mhm.
custom report includes a currency field. You must select
Mhm.
the show currency column option.
Option. Okay.
Okay, and that's why the
So,
currency column.
yeah. So one question I had. So let's say I went ahead and changed my or added a new field. Let's say.
Mhm.
So when I run the integration, does the field also get added? I mean, the new fields, whatever the new fields I have added, is it dynamic? Because if I'm changing there, does it changes here also the schema?
Uh, yes, it would be. Let's check that.
Okay.
So I am adding a new field. Uh, let's see. It has. If you remove a field and
Mm-hmm.
that field is being used in the data set, then
Okay.
your integration will fail.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. Let's add a new field.
Mm-hmm.
What field do you want to add?
Gender, we have age group, we have
Gender,
maybe
age group,
status, marital
manage.
status.
Yes, or management level.
Yeah,
We want to
marital.
also
Yeah.
understand the gender of the employee versus which level they are in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm.
let's run this. Okay, let's go ahead and run this integration now.
Okay.
Uh, is it running? It has been modified. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it has not loaded the management level data.
Okay. Okay.
So if there is an extra field added, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't load that field.
Okay.
But
Can
let's
yeah.
see, can
Can we
I?
refresh? We have a refresh, right? I don't know. I'm just
No,
wondering.
it's already loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
okay, here it's added. Okay, it's added.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
It didn't show there. Okay, let's go to the data set. Okay, here it is. Right. So adding a new
Mm-hmm.
field, it gets automatically added. If you delete a field, and if that
Mm-hmm.
field is being used downstream, for example, as part of any of your stages, and if it is a
Mm.
required field, then your integration would give an error or your integration would fail.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so if our integration will fail when the report schema does not contain a field that currently exists in the data set, and the remove field is used in a stage in the data set. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we spoke about the options to replace, replace, replaces all data or deletes all existing data and adds new data that is imported from customer report. Then we have the option called append, where Workday keeps existing data and adds the data that is imported from
So,
customer.
so let's say in your example you just talked about, suppose if I want to get all the new hires on a sector wise. So let's say I might create a changes only report for all the new hires by sector. So whenever I create a data set, I can select append so that gets appended. Is that the correct statement?
Yes,
All the new hires month wise, maybe month wise
right.
I want to. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
So you'll select the mode append. So the first time when you
Mm-hmm.
run that report, obviously run it for uh, to get all
Mm.
data from your data source.
Yeah.
But then going forward, you'll only run it for that period. You'll schedule the frequency on a daily basis, right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So replace and append, right? Okay. I would also go ahead and create my other data sets or other. Let's go in here. This is my other report organization assignments. I'll quickly modify it. I'll enable it for Prism. Okay. Do I have anything that I should be worried about? No. Uh, Advanced. I'm going to enable for Prism. Okay. All right. This is done.
Yeah.
I would also modify this report and enable it. Where is my edit option? Okay, there was one more thing I wanted to do, but which is okay. So we'll go ahead and create our other data set.
Yeah. Are we going to join these two sets, right?
Yes,
So,
we will.
okay.
Right. So that's how we'll get data from these multiple data sets,
Mm,
right,
yeah.
into
Yeah.
a single table.
So basically, all those two you're going to create them as an individual data sets, and later you're going to do the.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's how it has to go, right?
Yeah,
You get
yeah,
data
because,
from different sources and then you
yes,
create a
right.
derived data set wherein you blend them.
Hmm. Okay, it's very interesting actually.
Right. So this is also my level 1 or 0 2, right? And this is all related to my ZF01. Okay. Once a data set is created, just let me open this data set. Can I go ahead and edit the name of the data set?
Yeah, that should be possible, right? Why will a name have an impact?
Okay.
I mean, just thought.
So for a data set, once it is created, your name cannot be edited.
Oh, oh, okay.
Right? So once a
Yeah.
data set is created, you cannot go ahead and edit
By
the
any
name for it.
specific reasons, I know it may be too vague, but any specific reasons why we
Oh,
cannot edit?
I don't know.
So, okay. Yeah, because usually, yeah, okay, makes sense. If we cannot, it cannot.
Right?
Yeah.
For a table, you can do. A table is the latest option. But for
Okay.
a data set, we cannot change the name. Right?
Hmm.
What we can do is we can edit the description if we want, but that's all we can
Okay. Okay. Got
do. Right? All right. So be careful with what name you give. So I'm
So I
tagging
have
them
another
all.
question. Sorry, I have another
Yeah.
question. So let's say the custom report is being already used in one data center. So can I
Hmm.
use the same
Yeah.
report in another data set also?
Yes. Yes, you can.
Okay. Yeah. At least I'm glad
Uh,
that flexibility because
yeah. So and I don't know again why Workday has given it that way.
yeah,
Then
yeah. Okay.
um,
Big,
create a new data set. We have selected company hierarchy, right? The last data set we created. Now I'm selecting. Okay. I'll have to specify prompts. Here I'll say determine value at runtime today, and let's say what is here we are selecting global now. Run now. I want to replace my data and okay. Uh,
yeah. Hmm.
data. Okay, I again made a mistake. This was not worker details. This was actually what was it? This was organization details.
Organization.
But
Oh,
uh,
okay.
that is
It's
fine.
okay.
What I'll do is we can always delete our
Hmm.
data set, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
and this is ZF01, which is our first set. And ZF, let me, yes. So this is organization details or supervisory details. Okay, so ideally, I wanted these to be named as ZF01. Should I delete this or we'll go ahead and do that tomorrow? I can
Yeah,
delete
we'll
a
do.
data set.
Okay.
If so, that is usually the only option. If you see that you gave a wrong name. Okay, ZF03 supervisory details. I want F worker details. Okay, okay, and 01. This is our first data set. Replace mode. Oh, and I am creating my second data set, which is basically company details, right?
Ah,
Okay, so tomorrow we'll go ahead and talk about
yeah.
those different stages, right?
Mhm. Yeah, sure.
So tomorrow we'll also look at. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll join these data
Mhm.
sets, right? We'll create a single structure, and then we'll go ahead and get
Mhm.
data from outside Workday, and then join this with that data as well. Okay, so we have our three data sets ready:
Yeah.
worker details, supervisory details, and company
Okay.
details. We'll first join this data, and then we'll join
Okay.
with it with external data.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you so much. We'll connect tomorrow then. Bye. Take care.
Sure. Thank you.